Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today is the start of the podcast series, so I'm gonna just be chatting to some people I know and finding out just a little bit about how they've got themselves to where they are today. And so today's first guest is going to be a very good friend of mine called James, who I met in London. So hope you enjoy it and enjoy the podcast. Right, so we are here, guys. We're joined by my friend James, and we're gonna just talk about his life and how he got to be where he is today, and obviously any tips we can go from there. So without any further ado, James, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Thanks, great to be here, great to be the first guest.
Guest number one.
So yeah, much appreciated. So yeah, hi there, my name is James. I'm 29 years old. I'm originally from a place called Northamptonshire. I moved to London around about 7 years ago. I did a degree and a postgraduate master's, and I'm working in the City of London at the moment doing event sales within the oil and gas event space.
Amazing. So how did you come to the decision to move to London out of the small town that you were from?
Yeah, so I mean it was a part of my life where I was 22 years old. I kind of figured around there, like, I didn't think the kind of job wages were very high. I knew there was a kind of ceiling. I mean, it's kind of, so I kind of realised I needed to move from there really. I needed to kind of get a degree to get to where I wanted to in terms of obviously pay and living standards. So I did it a bit later. I was 22, I was probably about 2 to 3 years later than most people. And then I just decided after that point I wanted to obviously just develop. I wanted to obviously go to London and meet different cultures, and just expand my horizons.
So would you say that leaving was very tough for you? Would you say taking that step, because I know a lot of our viewers will be thinking about moving to university, starting another job. Would you say that you stepping out your comfort zone was very difficult, or did you think it was going to be alright? How did you cope with the process?
I was, to be honest with you, I was okay. Like I was obviously a bit sad to leave all my friends behind, but I wasn't that particularly bothered, to be honest with you. I just that was what I wanted to do. That was my kind of goal, really. I always had a goal that I wanted to move to London and work in London and go to uni. So they were just goals within my life which were kind of being ticked off and I wanted to achieve. So yeah, to answer your question, obviously I was a bit sad, but then after the first few weeks it was just like normal.
And I guess that, if you don't take that risk and that decision, then you would probably not got to where you are today.
No, right? It's all about taking risks, obviously, like safe calculated risks, which are going to benefit you. Because I mean, my view on it is if you stay in the same place for all your life, you're not going to really step out your comfort zone. You're not going to develop, and you're going to have the same mentality. You're going to be stagnant. That kind of goes against everything for me with my values. Yeah,
because I know when I left my town, I had a lot of friends who were saying, "Oh, it's a big risk and you shouldn't do it," and all this stuff. And if you go to university, you're going to be in a lot of debt and stuff. But I just always knew I was the kind of person that wanted more than life. That from life than what I was getting. And I think for me it was an important step, and it's taught me to, I think living in London especially, has taught me you've got to be very thick-skinned.
Absolutely, I mean it's a hustle and bustle city. It's very fast paced. It never stops. It has a saying that it's the city which never sleeps.
So that's what I was going to come on to. What's your advice for anybody currently in the situation where they're moving to London for the first time?
So I mean the circumstances is very different to when we moved. Like you were 10 years ago, it'd be 8 years in September for me. So I think with it's in terms of probably the biggest challenge as well is finding good accommodation and actually finding affordable accommodation. So
because prices move.
I mean one thing you've got to be careful with London is obviously the rent prices, but then if you're in a contract for 6 to 12 months, FYI, they'll actually increase the prices every time by a small percentage. That's how they make their money, which I think, in my view, is morally wrong. The second piece of advice is, I would go there and, I would I would hope obviously people would know somebody in London. You'd have like a select group, because I mean London's not like you go there and it's not very sociable in terms of where you go and meet people. It's kind of it's very groups, isn't it? Yeah. It can be. So I mean, we were kind of lucky when we went to London and went to uni, because we stayed in university accommodation. You know, it'd be very, very different if you were going there for a job. You'd obviously probably meet people in a house share or whatever, but you'd probably only be with those certain people. And obviously your work colleagues as well. So yeah, that's my second advice. Third advice is budget. I mean, definitely. Obviously, like the wages are obviously pretty good in London, but a lot of it's obviously taken up by rent costs, bills, and food prices as well, and leisure activities.
I think that's what people have to remember, isn't it, about London life? Because if you are moving to London for the first time, you underestimate, or I did anyway, even if you have a student loan, it doesn't go very far.
No.
You have to really be careful with your budget. That's what I found.
Absolutely. Like, I couldn't agree more. It's all about budgeting. You need to go in there, obviously, cost up your budget in. I mean, I still do it at the moment, even though I don't live in London. But I feel like, having a real good kind of spreadsheet to kind of map out all your costs is a really, really good idea, and it just helps you manage your money better. So it doesn't go down the drain.
Because I remember when we moved there and prices were lower than they are now.
Yeah, they were still pretty extortionate, but they were more like acceptable.
But now, it's gone up a lot. So I would never discourage someone. I think London's a great city to network in. I think it's an amazing place. I wouldn't be half the person I am if I hadn't moved to London, and I'm sure you wouldn't either, James.
No.
I think it's very good, but I think you need to be very tactile while you're there.
Yeah.
I think it's not really, you can have your fun, while you're studying, you can do this and that, but I think you really need to focus on a goal, while you're there, because it's a shelf life, isn't it?
It is a shelf life. It is. I mean, everyone's different. Like, I think we kind of did our time there after nearly 10 years. And you've got to go there with a goal in mind. You've got to question yourself. I always when I moved there, and obviously if things were tough, I would always say, well, why did I leave home? What made me spur that decision? And then it goes back to the goal. Well, obviously I want to go to uni, get a degree, masters, and then work in the city of London. That was my goal.
That was your goal.
So then revert back to that goal.
Would you say that when you moved to London, it forced you to come out of your shell because you had to network with people, didn't you?
Yeah, I think in general it's like any city I go to, really. Like you do have to be like that. You do have to come out and showcase yourself. Really, you're selling yourself, aren't you? And you're providing value really for your skill set. I mean, it's like I went to Bruges a couple of weeks ago. And I kind of did exactly the same thing, and it kind of reminded me actually of the first time I moved to London, really. You just push you outside your comfort zone.
Yeah. I remember when we first moved there, and it was very overwhelming, and we both, for a second, went, "Oh, we might move home." But that is that separates, for me, that separates the people who are really serious about getting on with business and chasing their goals, and those that are just happy to go home.
Yeah.
And I think, London isn't for everyone, but it will have a good effect on you.
It certainly. I mean, it certainly does make your skin thicker. That's for sure.
I think it forces you to network and because you have to, don't you?
Definitely.
So that brings me on to the question, which I know some of you guys will want to know about. How important do you think a university degree is in this day and age for young people coming up, getting jobs and things like that?
I think it is important if it's the right industry. I think my view on it is I was actually listening to a really good thing about this on YouTube and reading some articles around this the last couple of days, and I think a lot of degrees now they're not fit for purpose, and I think there's like a statistic like 52% of graduates now are in a job which doesn't require a degree. So then you have to look at the overall kind of education system.
Yeah.
Are the degrees fit for purpose with the jobs? Well, if it's 52%, clearly not. There's a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, I would say I'd probably with my job, I'd probably need a degree to do it. But with other more kind of not so senior sales roles, you wouldn't need a degree to do that.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that the margin between having a degree and not having a degree is closing essentially.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier to walk into a job now without a degree, because
Yeah.
I think a lot of it you can make, you know, with social media, you can make
Yeah.
a business online.
It's
you know,
changing now. Like it's different to what it was 10 years ago. Like there's so much, you know, more opportunities really to make money online, as long as obviously you have an audience and a base and a product which creates value. But yeah, I mean, a degree is not everything. You know, like it's not. It's really, with a degree, it's a piece of paper, and it's basically a step in the door, isn't it? That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
It gives you that access to if it's obviously in the actual correct fields, better payment opportunities. But it's not everything. I mean, there's people who have worked in my company. Like there's this guy who's in sponsorship. He's like a sponsorship manager, and he didn't go to like uni. He just worked in various sales jobs and worked his way up.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. Yeah, it just depends obviously on your goals and circumstances.
Yeah.
But it's not everything.
No, and I think, you know, it's very impressive that people can achieve what they achieve without a degree.
Yeah.
You know, because you and I have got degrees, but that, I mean, to be fair, a lot of what I'm doing now doesn't really stem from my degree.
No.
It stems from the hard work that I've put in on social media.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing is, I think with the way that social media is, it's given people more leg room to not have a degree. You know, because back in the day, if you didn't have a degree, you were quite most likely not going to get the job that someone with a degree would get.
Yeah.
But,
Which in some ways is quite unfair, because there's a lot of perfectly capable people who don't go to uni and work, because I see it on a day-to-day basis in my company.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there probably needs to be a bit more of a focus on apprenticeships. I think apprenticeships like worked quite well, particularly with our like parents' generation.
Yeah. Yeah.
There needs to be more opportunities that way. And the issue is, we're going obviously onto a bit of like political and economic talk now. The issue is with our economy, it's a gig economy, so it's a service economy. So you're gonna have these kind of lower paid jobs because it's services. It's like food, tertiary, financial services is a bit different, but generally speaking, it's service based in terms of that market.
So, what would be your advice for any introverted people out there who are looking to start a business and they have concerns about going out and networking? You know, because obviously us being quite extroverted, it comes not easily, but it gives you an advantage in terms of going out into the city, going and networking. So what would your advice be for someone who is introverted and wants to sort of get their brand out there and things like that?
Yeah, so I think there's two sides to the coin. So if we play devil's advocate, the first side of the coin is you go out, you practice, you know, you learn the skills, you practice in front of a mirror in order for you to achieve that. The second side of the coin is that you basically just throw yourself in the deep end and you go out and you just do it. I mean, there's no really right or wrong answer, to be quite honest with you, in my view. It's either one of the two. I mean, a good example is, you know, when I went to Bruges, it's the first time I've done a solo travel. So, you know, obviously at first, I was a little bit nervous, particularly when I was getting on the Eurostar. But then I just went ahead and do it and pushed myself out of my comfort zone, had a great time, met loads of people in the hostel I was staying in. And that's obviously a good example of pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And to be quite honest, I'd love to do it again in terms of solo travelling. But it's easier said than done, really. It's not one size fits all.
Definitely. So I think, you know, even if you're worried about, you know, all these big city things that come with it and all of the concerns you might have, I think one good thing to do is to watch any YouTube videos, tutorials, anything like that, to show you how to come out of your shell, because, you know, we go back to the whole, you know, having your business is one thing, but you've got to sell yourself. So you've got to have the confidence to sell yourself as well. So you know, I really would advise anybody who's watching this who feels a bit underconfident, you know, really go out and try and focus on how you're going to be able to go out and network and things. And I think actually us living in London really helped us with that.
Yeah.
I certainly know before I moved to London, I wasn't nearly as good at networking as I am now, and I think it's the same for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. I mean, London is all about networking. I mean, it's funny, you look back to like London, you look through history, like in the 1700s, it's not actually really changed. Like there was people going into coffee houses and networking, and nothing's really changed apart from having phones now.
Yeah. So the final question of the podcast is, what is next for James Walters?
Sure. So, well, I've been in London for 8 years now. I've seen it all, and I think I've done everything I wanted to achieve there. So I'm actually moving to Amsterdam in September.
Ooh.
I fancy obviously just a new city, a new experience, a new challenge. You know, the challenge of learning a new language, understanding the culture, and yeah, it's just obviously it's a new adventure.
Amazing, mate.
So
that's incredible. So
so
Amsterdam awaits your
presence.
your presence.
Yeah.
And then you'll be focusing on your business, probably.
Yeah. So I think for like the first year when I'm there, I'm probably going to work. I want to go into tech sales. That's like another kind of ambition of mine. You know, I've been doing delegate sales for quite some time now. I want to like progress into the tech sector. And then what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to set my own business up on the side. I think I'm going to probably set an affiliate marketing business up, particularly in fitness. I'm just kind of working on the narrowing down of the niche at the moment. And then the goal really for me in the next kind of 5 years is to make that sustainable and then basically work full time doing that.
Amazing. Wow. Well, thanks very much, James, for being on the first episode of this podcast, and thank you to you guys for tuning in. And we will definitely be back when James has moved to Amsterdam, and we will find out what the man has been up to.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. It's been good.
A pleasure. Yeah.
Yes, we do see each other quite a lot, but this is the first podcast I've ever done, and this is the first one. So thank you guys for tuning in. Please make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. Please like this video, and we'll see you for episode number 2.
See ya.